Hello and welcome to our AFP webinar live stream, the monthly Giving Mastermind, 5-step framework to build, grow, and sustain subscriptions for good. Sponsored by Charity Engine. Thank you for joining us. My name is Robbie and I'll be the operator for the presentation today. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to acquaint you with a few features of this live stream technology. At any time, you may adjust your audio using your computer volume settings. For closed captions, click the CC icon in the bottom right-hand corner of the video player. Select English to enable closed captions. On the right-hand side of your screen, you will see the audience engagement window with navigational tabs at the top. The chat tab allows audience members to communicate with one another. To send a message to the audience chat, click in the text box and type your comment. To send the comment, press the Enter key or the Send icon. The Q&A polling tab is where you will ask the presenters questions. You will need to enter your first and last name in order to participate in polls or to ask a question. To ask a question, click in the text box and type your question. When finished, press the Enter key or click the paper airplane icon to send the questions. All questions that you submit are only seen by today's presenters. Your questions will be responded to in the order in which they were received and will be addressed at the end of the presentation. We are joined today by our speaker, Dana Snyder. Dana is a dynamic speaker, author of the Monthly Giving Mastermind, host of the nonprofit podcast Missions to Movements, and the visionary behind the Monthly Giving Summit. Her mission is to create sustainable giving models by establishing robust monthly giving programs, making philanthropy accessible to all. At this time, I would like to turn the microphone over to Dave to begin today's webinar.
All right. Thank you, Robbie. Welcome, everyone, to today's webinar. I'm so excited. I mean, that was like the best introduction I've heard, Dana. That was
So
awesome.
good.
So my name is Dave Martin. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Charity Engine. And as Robbie said, we're the sponsor of today's webinar. Charity Engine, I'll give you a real brief overview of Charity Engine. It is a complete fundraising platform. And what I mean by that is that everything a nonprofit needs to drive their fundraising can be done within our platform. All of the technology is native to the platform. You don't have to do lots of integrations. And that includes donation forms, email and marketing automation, events, peer-to-peer, galas, ticketing, a CRM at the core of it, and payment processing. We scale, we work with small organizations up to enterprise-sized organizations, and we're the leader in monthly giving revenue retention. And we have guarantee on that, and we pride ourselves in our ability to help you collect more from your monthly donors. We connected with Dana, who's a huge proponent, and she's a thought leader and honestly a rock star in the area of monthly giving. So we invited her here to the stage to share her knowledge with all of you. You're going to love it. And the last thing I'm going to say here is we're going to be giving away 100 copies of Dana's book, The Monthly Giving Mastermind. I know I'm in a hotel room and I don't have mine to show. I feel bad.
I was like, I got you.
Yeah, awesome. So in the chat, you'll see a link to a landing page. Give us your information and you'll be put into the raffle to get one of the free copies we're going to send out. That's all I have to say. Over to Dana. Dana, thank you so much for doing this today. And I'll come back towards the end.
Yes, amazing, Dave. Thank you so much. Robbie, thank you for the wonderful intro. Charity Engine for bringing us all together today. I think that's my favorite part and the kind of the genesis of a mastermind, which I'm going to go into more details about, is about being together in community. And when I talk about loving monthly giving, y'all, I'm wearing it. Literally, monthly giving is my love language. If you can see the shirt, like I totally breathe by what I speak and say and give. And so I want to kick it off with some engagement. And so I hope throughout this session, I know Robbie kindly said questions will be at the end, but please, like, you showed up here for a reason. So if you can let me know first on the priority scale of recurring giving at your organization, 1 to 10, 1 being like, we haven't really thought about it, we haven't considered it, to 10 where it's like, it is our main focus. We are super excited about monthly giving, recurring giving. Like, I am here for this. Let me know. And this is why I asked this question, is I think more than ever in the moment that we're in, having agency over our fundraising and exciting a new generation of donors and how we give is super critical. So I'd love to know on a scale of 1 to 10, Robbie, what are we seeing?
A lot of eights, some tens, some nines.
Yeah.
They're all very high. There's a few fives. Um,
Okay. Okay.
but for the most part, they're all pretty high.
Amazing. Okay. The goal is to get this to go, if you are in that middle, to get us all leaning on the 5 to at least the 10 range. So, second question for you. What's one word to describe how you feel about your recurring giving program right now in this moment? Or if you don't have one, how do you feel about creating one and starting that today? So, one word that you can write. And today, this is the perfect day to do this presentation because I just wrapped a support call for my monthly giving mastermind. I work with 5 organizations 2 times a year on building programs. And it's totally okay if one of those words is scared. One organization, we built out the landing page and the copy and all these things. She goes, "I'm so nervous to like hit the button to share it." And I was like, "But that's exciting because that means you're doing something new." So I'm hearing excited, non-existent, underutilized, disorganized. Okay. Some negative, some positive. Why my goal today is about the end, that you're excited, you're pumped, you feel ready, you feel confident to get started. Okay, so what if we could unlock $9 billion? Think about that for a second. Collectively together, us here today, not just one time, also. I'm talking about every single year. Is that enough funding for programs, more staff, expand services, and really ultimately, in what you're doing, hopefully impacting the communities that you serve? $9 billion. Well, I partnered with Giving Tuesday recently, and they've been running an analysis on the opportunities in our sector. And of course, no surprise, recurring was at the top of the list of priorities. And so today I wanted to share with you a preview of some of the numbers from that really exciting analysis. And so right now, the current state is that of all charitable donations in the US specifically, only 3% are on a recurring basis. The goal that we've collectively talked about is moving that from 3 to 5%. If we're able to do that, that's an unlock of an additional 9 billion in annual funding for nonprofits. Like, how does that feel? Like knowing that that is 2 percentage points. Now that's going to take a lot of work and it's going to take a lot of effort. But collectively as a group, I think there's 2 million, I heard recently, nonprofits registered in the United States. If we do this work together, that is what can just be possible by 2 percentage points. But to get there, we have to talk about kind of what's more common now. So let's talk about, how do we typically position monthly giving? This might feel very familiar to a lot of you. Like, do your donation pages look like this, where the recurring gift is a small asterisk of being made a monthly gift? If so, think about, if a donor lands on this page, sees this form, what's the first thing that they see? Are they being called to join something powerful, something ongoing, a movement? Is there excitement? Or are they being asked to give once, really, with a small secondary option to maybe consider a monthly gift? What we need to do is shift our mindset. If we are treating recurring giving as an afterthought, it's no surprise that our donors will too. But this shift doesn't happen by accident, right? It happens when we, as nonprofit leaders and fundraisers, really start changing our own habits first, not just the habits of what we want our donors to do. So it's going to start with how we prioritize, how we communicate, and then really importantly, how we ask. So I want you to think about your own life for a moment. How many of you in the chat put a Y or an N? How many of you have a Netflix subscription? Y for yes, N for no. Or Hulu or Disney Plus or any type of entertainment subscription. Robbie, what am I getting? Some Ys, some Ns, any type of entertainment subscription.
They are starting to come in, but I'm pretty certain they're all going to be yes.
Okay. Surprisingly, the average millennial has 17 subscriptions. So if you have a Netflix subscription, what about a gym membership?
I
What
saw
about Hello?
one N.
One N. Okay. So there's a delay on us receiving here. So maybe a HelloFresh subscription. I am talking to myself when I talk about all these. I have many entertainment. I go to Orange Theory. I am not a good cook. So for my family, we do HelloFresh. So subscriptions have really, especially in this past decade, been ingrained in our daily lives, right? It's predictability, it's convenience. And for donors, like we're no different. We love the habit of giving. We also love the habit of set it and forget it, but for good. So here's the real question. Do we, as nonprofit leaders, have the habit of asking in this way? Or is monthly giving still like a little sidebar on the website? The PS message in the emails that you sent out, maybe talked about once a year? Because here's the truth. Are we really prioritizing monthly giving the way that we should? Because if we want to build the habit of the donors giving in this way, we need to build the habit of asking. So we have to flip this script. Instead of it being an optional way, it is the primary way to support your organization. Because the truth of all of this is, and I think many of us have seen this in so many blogs and articles, and it's becoming really popular, is monthly donors don't just stick around a whole lot longer. They give more over time. They feel more connected to your work. They're more likely to increase their gifts, introduce you to their networks, and even give legacy gifts. I have an organization I just finished working with that they had a monthly donor, two actually, two monthly donors that gave for over 10 years a like insignificant monthly gift. And they left them legacy gifts. Like kind of blew their mind. And they're like, okay, we need to be doing way more research into our monthly donors and paying attention to it. So who am I to talk about all of this and my obsession for recurring giving? Dave and Robbie did a lovely intro at the beginning, but I have a podcast where I talk all about partnerships and recurring giving. I wrote a book on it that came out in September last year of the framework I'm going to be sharing with you. And then last September, I hosted for the first time. I was like, you know what? We need to have an event just about monthly giving because it's such an important part of the work that we do. And so I decided to kind of on a whim create a summit. And last September, 2,100 people showed up. And then we just had another one in February. Give me like exclamation marks if you were there. In February, we had 4,700 people from 58 countries attend the summit. So goes to show it's a really important topic of conversation. And I talk about this and I give and I support in this way because it's aligned with my core identity as a person, as a human, and because I was asked. So the organizations that you see surrounding my kind of like headshot right now, I give monthly to all of these organizations. And December was one of the first I've been giving, I think, for over 5 years to that organization, the Hope booth right next to it for 2 years. And I just hosted, because they asked, an in-person fundraiser at my home for a birthday party. And I was so excited to do this. I told my friends, so 17 people gathered at my house, and I invited the Hope booth. They came with some super cool swag. And I said, today you're going to get to celebrate 3 of my favorite things: giving back, barbecue, which is what I gave people to eat. And then we did an outdoor adult scavenger hunt at night for my birthday. And they loved it. We had a great time. 4 people became new monthly donors. And I think another 4 became one-time donors of the organization. And so the hope is that this movement grows. But the point of me saying that is that I'm not just a monthly donor to these organizations. I am a true believer in what they're doing. And when I am called and when I'm asked to do something, I say yes. Also, I'm a millennial on the later scale, but this is how we prefer to give because we're used to subscription-based services. So what I believe, and the reason for the mastermind term, which I'll explain in a second, is I really believe the growth of a successful program doesn't just happen from what's happening inside your organization. It's us being together right now and sharing ideas together. So my hope is that you can tap into each other, like share your LinkedIn profiles right now, share what you do, share what your needs are, because you have inspiration, collaboration, and innovation happening right here. So the whole purpose of why I do what I do is to share ideas with you, to foster connections amongst each other, and together we scale that impact and we move that needle from the 3 to 5%. So many times, I know it can be difficult, you might be in this position, to persuade leadership or board members about the benefits of recurring giving, especially if you've been substantially focused on just major gifts or just grants. Okay. So in the chat, what would you prefer? Let's just say today, I was going to guarantee you 100 new donors. In the chat, put A, if you would prefer that they were $100 one-time donors, or if they were B, $115, but they were recurring monthly. So in the chat, what would you prefer? And as you do that, I'm going to share with you this stat, and maybe Robbie, when the answers come in, you can let me know how we gauge there. I shared this.
B's.
All B's. Okay, good. Okay, good. So sometimes we need visualizations on why. So I shared this graph on LinkedIn, and I want to put it into this presentation because it shows what's actually possible and what happened. So immediately, right, 100 donations, $100, you're going to get $10,000. Only $1,500 from monthly. So sometimes that like super instant appeal is really attractive. But after just 1 year, you can see the blue is the monthly. That's already a substantial difference of $18,000. What happens once you get to year 3 is they're going down slightly because of this is just based off 100 if there was no growth. Think about the average retention rate of a one-time donor. I put in here 35%, and for monthly, I put 85%. Look at that continuous growth, the difference. One time over 3 years, 14,700 monthly, 47,000 plus. So if you ever need some, this is not necessarily proof for you because you're here and you're excited about it, but if you need to take something back to your team, this is a great thing to screenshot to share the visualization over time. And you can like change this in ChatGPT and put your own numbers in there to see where it comes out. Whew, this slide, more than ever in this moment, one of these fundraising options is the most sustainable, the most predictable, and the most consistent. And that's why you're here. Major donors, not always predictable. Grants, not predictable. Sponsorships, not predictable. One-time gifts, not consistent. Monthly recurring giving is. It is the most sustainable, predictable stream with also, I will asterisk, likely super compassionate and generous donors. But here's the secret to all of this. And I give you a little bit of a teaser. Has to do with the title of the book, has to deal with the community aspect of what we do. And it's about being in a mastermind. And so essentially today you are invited to be part of this little mini mastermind that we are in together. And it's all about a group of peers who are going to mentor each other, solve problems together, answer each other's questions, and get advice from one another, really pursuing the same goal. In 2021, I joined as a business owner, as a female entrepreneur, my own mastermind, and it blew my mind. The structure of being together with a core group of people who are so open and transparent with sharing the behind the scenes of what was going on that I created a Sustainer Slack group. There's 160 nonprofits in there sharing emails, sharing stories, sharing ideas, sharing LinkedIn templates. I got donations. Like this is what it's all about. So before I jump into my framework, I wanted to tell you where it came from. Since 2022, I have helped launch 23 monthly donor programs through the Monthly Giving Mastermind. And then last year, and then over the course really of a year and a half, I interviewed 15 wonderful nonprofits of all different sizes, from 26 at the time to 66,000 monthly donors. And all of that research and all of the building and all of the learning over the course of the time and listening to organizations created this 5-step framework. And this is what I'm going to break down today for you. Step 1 is create the product. Step 2, make it easy. Step 3, call in the believers. That is your foundation. Then 3 through 5, call in the believers, make the ask, share constant joy and gratitude. These kind of work and repeat and are happening evergreen. And I'm going to go through each one of those with you. And I want to give a shout out to Megan Walsh. I don't know if she's here. She had sent me a message that she might be here. Case study from my very first mastermind that this framework works with any size organization, and it's possible if you take action. She's a one-person team. She shared with me 33% now of her donors are recurring. That's fantastic. She's a 93% retention rate. She's launching upgrade campaigns with her monthly donors to increase the value of monthly gifts. She relaunched her monthly giving program with us in spring of 2023, and look at that growth. It's incredible. So no matter where you are, if you have one person or if you have 500 people on your team, what I'm about to share with you can be applicable. So let's jump into this. Step number 1, is to create the product. And what I mean by this is, let's just see what I have. Let's just use my book, for example. This is a product. It has a barcode. There was lots of thought that went into the cover of this, how the pages are created, the design, the name of the book, right? The same thing should be happening for your monthly giving program product. Okay. The first thing you want to think about is the why. Why do you need a monthly giving program? What's the impact it's intended to have? December, the organization that I shared with you that I've been a monthly donor for 5 years, originally, they were a predominantly peer-to-peer fundraising nonprofit campaign fundraising organization. So they made most of their money seasonally. I think it was October through December, November. And they realized, A, we're not communicating with our people as much as we should, and we need to have more sustainable funding throughout the year. So their why for creating a monthly giving program was to curb really that fundraising and make it be throughout the whole year. So what's the impact it's intended to have? 2, what's the structure of your monthly giving program? Once you figure out the why, and when I think about structure, I'm talking about your impact amounts. Your donation amounts that you share on a form can quite easily become a storytelling area for you. So I'm sharing 2 different ideas here. On the right side, I'm going to start there first, is a more traditional sense where we say X amount of dollars will create X amount of impact. So the example here is $24 provides meals for 2 people every day for a week. $98 provides support for our Food Rescue Hero app. Lots of organizations might not have numbers like these that you can break down. So on the left side, I create this like dollar a day method is also becoming more popular. And the positioning here is how can you not go a day without doing $1 for good? So I have an organization that was in my mastermind 2 rounds ago that's on climate change. And they're like, it's a really big problem. So we don't necessarily have specific dollar amounts for things. So they use this. So $1 a day, they even have one for 50 cents a day to give that $15 range a month. So you can think about what's the structure, what's the why, and then more importantly, what's the name? So the Hope Booth I mentioned to you, Gloria Umana here featured, is the founder. And she was really creating the Hope Booth and the movement, which is the name of their monthly giving program, because it's built for community. Like everything they're about is for community. Why wouldn't we have a monthly giving community that's powering that? So having a name, I think, is essential when it comes to a program because it's community. We crave belonging. It makes it bigger than ourselves. In conversational elements, it allows us literally to say, hey, Dave, hey, Robbie, would you be a part of the blank? Would you join the movement? Would you join the plenty? Can I invite you to the table, right? These are all different names that have popped up in the mastermind. And I want to share another kind of fun example. Has anyone ever seen the rubber ducks? I think I have one right here. Has anyone seen these on Jeeps? So when I was driving, when I was in the process of writing the book, I was picking up my daughter from daycare at the time. And I noticed a mother and son in the car next to me, and they were like rearranging a row of ducks that took over their entire dashboard in the car. And I found out through this, I was like, what is the deal with so many Jeeps having ducks? There's a proud community of Jeep owners who participate in this tradition called ducking or duck, duck, Jeep. And it is the tradition of placing a rubber duck on another person's Jeep as a sign of respect to the owner of the vehicle. So essentially, when you're joining this entire when you buy a Jeep, you're joining this micro community. And now unfortunately, I drive a RAV4. I am not part of this cool Jeep gang that's going on here. But the point of this is if a car was just a car, there was no name to the product. There's no community built. There's no branding around it. So how can you create that as a conversation point for your organization? Okay, step number 2, this is why we love the charity engines that are here with us, is to make it easy. So step 2, once you have the name, once you have the why, once you figure out your donation amounts, every product has its own landing page, right? Even if it's a product page. We want to make sure that your monthly giving program on your website, not just an area on a form, a separate landing page to direct people to that is doing nothing but telling the wonderful story of your monthly giving program. And one big reason for this is to avoid donor confusion. I have heard lots of times that donors feel like they're being tricked by a monthly versus a one-time. If you have a landing page that says like monthly giving program and it has a name and the form on that page is just to give monthly, and that is the only option because that's all you're talking about on the page, and you sprinkle monthly and recurring, at that point, you have done your due diligence. You have way done your due diligence. So we are avoiding donor confusion. We're making sure that there's a big statement at the top as to why giving monthly matters, why it's important, the value proposition, and we're making it easy to give through the donation experience. So it's monthly only, or if you still feel like you need to offer the one time, it's pre-selected as monthly. You have multiple payment options. There's no long forms. It's mobile friendly. And I want to show you a couple examples of what I mean. So just in this current round of the mastermind, this is a before and after of the website page. So before on the left, this was the like homepage, and the logo placement took up basically everything. And you couldn't really tell exactly what they did. If you look at the right, it is clear, preparing families to confidently navigate their healthcare. And then once you scroll down, has their value prop. Advocate for Black maternal health, support life-saving healthcare, education every month. So this is specific, and their program's called Advocate. So the button is an intent button, says become an advocate. So you click that and immediately you're led to their form. So big change in the visuals, the language that's here. It says join, become. It's verb action words within the buttons, not just donate, not just give. Second example here, amazing organization that rescues dogs. Again, on the left-hand side, you can see that nav is taking up a lot of space. You can't really tell what they do. It just says, let us entertain you. Now on the right-hand side, where perfectly imperfect dogs find their perfect match. And then help us set up camp. They're called the campers because the organization is called Camp Cocker. So join the campers, which is super fun. Help us set up camp for at-risk dogs with a permanent rescue facility. So what they're trying to do now is they're trying to grow and expand. And the purpose, again, going back to the why of their monthly donors, is to help create this amazing new facility. So they know exactly where their gift is going. Another example, like a mastermind moment, I love Daily Giving. Their organization only accepts recurring gifts. It is the rarity where they have one-time donors, which I think is really cool. And the other aspect of make it easy in this framework is that you want them to easily be able to pause or cancel their account because you want there to be trust. I shared the example of HelloFresh earlier. Now, HelloFresh, it is very easy to sign up for an account. It is very easy to pick my 3 meals a week. However, do you know you cannot cancel HelloFresh on mobile? You have to go to desktop. That is not a good user experience. And so you have to make sure that not only from the sign up perspective, that it's a great experience, but also because you want them to stick around for a long time, can they manage it well too? And I'm seeing all of your questions. Thank you for these. I promise I will answer them when we get to the end. Step number 3, this is your preparation for acquisition. At this point, we are not asking anybody for a gift yet. This is all about finding your super fans. So this is around copy is where it starts, clear messaging. Again, we're talking to each other, right? So we want to make sure that our language reflects that doesn't feel too stoic, that it's talking to a person, that we share that value proposition. What's the need? What's the impact? You want to be thinking about partnerships. Right now, if you think about who are your existing corporate partners, and have you talked to them about monthly giving? How you can work together? Are there lunch and learns? Do they have an employee newsletter? Do they do matching? And just have a conversation to ask them, how could we partner together in this way? Podcast guesting. Can you be on a podcast like mine or like many others that are within your cause area that you can be? You are a subject matter expert in your cause area. So showcase yourself, pitch your story to different shows, and then have your call to action and have it be sprinkled in. We have a monthly giving program called The Blank. Would love for you to join it throughout the conversation. Local, trade, press. content creator partnerships. This is all so important to make sure that you are top of mind and visible. So I want you to start with this example. This is the messaging example. If you look at the headline on this website, this is of a monthly giving specific page. Debugging Silicon Valley's diversity problem starts with making computer science accessible to all youth. And if you look, let's rewrite the code, join Bits of Change to help teach and inspire youth to explore a world of possibilities and create a brighter future for all. Join Bits of Change. It is clear, it's a value proposition, and it's unique to this organization. There's like little puns in there. It's very specific to Silicon Valley because they're based in that area. So when you're looking at the copy on your website specific to monthly giving, is it clear? And then the point of spreading the word before the ask, I think something that's really important is visibility. We might send an email to your donors, and at that moment, maybe they don't see it, maybe they're not prepared to give, but something's going to happen in their life where they're going to want to give. And are you the organization that is top of mind for them in that moment? What makes that happen is by constantly being in press, on podcasts, doing relationships with people on LinkedIn or Instagram, relevant content creators, with your employees sharing the message, or your board of directors. Like, you are out there and you're creating positive, good noise about the work that you do, and you're quoted as a subject matter expert. So thinking about this is really important. And I want to break down what it looks like, because we don't always, sometimes we think of media and we're like, how am I going to get in the New York Times? How am I going to get in the Wall Street Journal? How am I going to get in these big outlets? That's not what I mean. And that's not always what you want. This is an example of a press plan that I put together for the Picnic Project. They're in my current mastermind. These are hyper-focused outlets, podcasts, and content creators based on his cause, which is all about creating food and food security. And so if you look at the press outlets, he's in Orlando, Florida, in Sanford specifically. So the Sanford Herald is there. They have a local stories and nonprofit spotlight section. That's where we want to go. For food and wine, the founder is a chef. So it makes sense to be in the chefs and restaurants giving back section. For podcast to pitch, the Sporkful, like, we're trying to find people who are foodies, who like love to do, like, to give back and celebrate around eating, and they're going to understand what it is that he's talking about and resonate. Same thing with the content creators. Okay. So super hyper focused on the trades that you're trying to reach out to. Now, step number 4, and you've probably been waiting for me to get to this part of the framework the whole time. You're like, where do I ask? Where do I actually make the ask for the gift? That's happening here. So step 4, do all 3 first, is now you are ready to make the ask. Invite people in. So I teach something called tentpole and evergreen moments. I recommend 2 to 3 tentpole campaigns where you are talking about nothing but monthly giving. And then you sprinkle in evergreen moments throughout all of your emails, through webinars, through the podcast, through your events, through anything that you're doing where you're talking about monthly giving. So again, this is in your emails. Give people the option to give monthly. Give people the option to give one time. Let them choose, but always include it. It does not have to be either or. It should be an and. SMS and texting and your paid advertising at your events, right? This is what some of this can look like. So Tim Tebow Foundation, I've worked with, they do incredible social ads that's grown, like substantially grown their monthly giving from 6,500 to over 20,000 recurring supporters. Clio, emails specific. This one's just for monthly giving. Getting on podcasts. This is how Erica Carley was talking about a 98% retention rate with their organization, right? This is power. I love this example. I'm actually going to ask this to be dropped in the chat. So I'm going to share with you a session from this past monthly giving summit where we did case study rooms. And one of the rooms was launched to 500 monthly donors. So anybody in that room could join, or that was looking for something in that range could join. And I love this story of Culinary Care. It was a case study where they, instead of during their live fund to need, they normally asked for a $100 gift. This time, they asked for monthly donations. They got 60 monthly donors in one night. They created this special sponsored, the Magic Parlor, where there was like special champagne for all of the monthly donors, the new ones that joined that night. So thinking about in your existing events, how do you create a unique VIP experience for your monthly supporters, and how do you ask for new monthly supporters in this area? So they had their soft launch in 2021. They're now at close to 7,000 a month. 60 of that 230 came from the gala. Just think about these, like it could be a golf tournament. It could be whatever event you have. Rethink it a little bit to how can you include monthly to really be the centerpiece of that event. And I love this example. Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project, their monthly donors put on an event, a fundraising event. This is our quote about it. The donors do it. They invite people. We invite some as well, but it's a donor thing. They organize the whole thing. Put it like that was me. I planned my birthday party. I invited my friends. They showed up to it. Let your community create the ripple effects for you. Okay. And then step 5, this is so important. Recurring giving only works well when retention is solid, right? That's the whole reason why we love recurring giving. So you want to make sure that there is a strategic plan. I call this share constant joy and gratitude. And what we want to happen is that that spark of joy that happened when they first hit that button to give monthly happens every single time that transaction hits their account. So you want to, obviously, as you grow and as you scale, you want to automate this where you can. This example on the right-hand side from Hunger Heroes, this is a monthly giving program from BB4CK, Brown Bagging for Calgary's Kids. And their team put together an entire retention plan. She designed this in Canva, which I thought was really cool, all the way from the first week to the 12th month. So starting about what's happening over the course of the first year. Outside of the email series, what are they getting monthly? Are we sending anything snail mail? Are we sending a handwritten mail? Are we sending a t-shirt? Is there a surprise and delight? Something that I teach is a 4-part email welcome series where it's literally 4 emails that all go out in the first month. And the 4th email is happy 1-month anniversary. Like, we're so excited that you're here. Here's what's to come. So think about what is your retention plan, and this makes a huge difference. So I have a case study. You can find this on LinkedIn, but here's the QR code as well. I worked with an organization during I do a VIP intensive day. So it was a day and a half. And they originally had a churn rate of 2.8% usually every month. And what we did during the whole session was we just focused on retention. What was happening in the first 30 days, the first 60, 90, and over the course of a year. I followed up with the organization like 6 months later, and I was like, how's it going? There was a couple main things we did. One was the landing page that they had, going back to the beginning about make it easy. It wasn't really clear that it was monthly. So they were having a lot of cancellations. Their cancellations went from 395 to 54. That's an 86% difference from us just making sure monthly was plugged in throughout the page. So there was no donor confusion. Secondly, we added, before they only had one, and I break all of this down in the LinkedIn article, by the way, they had one email that was being sent out, but what was happening when we did this audit was there was actually 3 emails firing, 2 duplicate emails being sent by the platform that it just hadn't been looked at in forever, and then theirs went out all at the same time. So that's a pretty spammy user experience, and then they don't know how to distinguish your lovely email from like a receipt email, and then they're probably not going to open any of them. And then that's just a bad experience from the get-go. So we built out this 4-part email series. One of them was a custom, very personalized outreach. They did end up having like an incentive. They had a t-shirt that we sent on month 3. We did add for them SMS text messaging, which has been a huge, great response for them. And snail mail pieces. There was a handwritten thank you note. Because if you check your open rates, if your monthly donors, and that should be a different segment, are only 25% open rate, 30% open rate, they're just not seeing it. They're not seeing the impacts. There has to be a different way to reach them, and that's what we did. We made sure that there was a more omnipresent approach to be able to connect with these supporters, and that's where we saw this 2.8 to 1.4% churn rate, which is a 98.6% retention rate, which is pretty incredible. So I have an audit, and then please keep those questions flowing. We're about to jump into Q&A time with myself and Dave. I want us to talk through an audit of your existing program right now. If you scan the QR code, or I will go ahead and put this over in the chat. You can click this link and put in the code audit. I have it's like a 2-pager PDF. That's a more intensive audit that you can print out or do online for your organization. But I want to start with this. Does the current structure of your program, your monthly giving program, align with the intent of your mission? That's really important, because as donors, we just want to know where the impact's going, right? Number 2, do you have a product name? Do you have a name for your monthly giving program to call people in, for them to rally behind, for them to be excited about? 3, do you have a product landing page with all of the important information above the fold? I want the value proposition, the form, what the impact mission is going to be before we have to even scroll. Super important, because our attention spans are like lizard brains these days, and we have 2 seconds to make a decision. So we want all the information front and center. And I know this, especially I have a 2-year-old at home, and so my attention span is all over the place lots of times, running after her. 4, does your copy call in the believers? You're not trying to speak to everybody. You're really not. You want to find your core group of people, and that is going to spread the message. So does your copy speak to your super fans? I graduated from the University of Central Florida, go Knights, and I am a diehard. I have traveled all the way to Ireland to watch them in a bowl game. I have traveled across the country for other bowl games. My husband is also a Knight. We have Knight swag for our daughter. So through and through, you must believe that I am a super fan of the Knights. And so when they have a copy, they are speaking to Knight Nation. And I am called into that. So you need to figure out what that is for you. Is it easy and clear on how to give? And this might seem like, well, of course it is. But you look at your forms all the time. Somebody who's brand new is not. So do it, put on an outsider's brain on, or ask somebody who's maybe never seen it before and ask them if they feel confused. Maybe even watch them. How long is it taking them to go through the form? Are they pausing anywhere? Does it seem confusing? And then the most important when it comes to recurring, do you have a strategy on making the ask consistently and providing constant joy and gratitude? And it really all comes back to this. But before we wrap, I'm going to go back to this question. Do we, as leaders, as fundraisers, as board of directors, as anybody here today, do we have the habit of asking in this way? Because unless we do, they're taking the cue from us. We have to ask in this way and make it more commonplace, or else the action's not going to happen. So today, my biggest hope and my cheerleader inside for you is that we move from just knowledge today to action. And so what are ways that we can do that? There are 2 commitments that I am kind of asking from you today to take on if you're writing some notes. First, implementation starts now. We've just talked about a lot of strategies. I shared a lot of stories, but having a bunch of notes sit and collect dust is not useful. So take one thing that I've talked about and commit to implementing it. It can be the smallest thing, but just commit one thing so that we start today. And 2, if we're going to move the needle on that 3 to 5% for $9 billion additional in philanthropy, we have to do this together. The most successful monthly giving programs do not operate in silos, truly. They share, they lift each other up. This is what a mastermind's about. If we want to grow this way of giving, which I think naturally wants to happen, because look, I am the next generation of donors coming in, and this is how we are giving. This is how we are spending as consumers. We have to work together in sharing insights, testing strategies, and really building a community of support. In the spirit of giving, I would love to gift to you. This is the Sustainer Slack group I talked about earlier. And it's honestly, there's 160 leaders in there. They come together for real-time support and collaboration. If you want to scan the QR code, the first month is on the house, is free. Come in, check it out. If you're not about it, you can leave. But I wanted to share it with you today because I think we're just motivated and inspired when we can learn from others. And it's all about being in community and sharing wins together because that feels good, and the challenges that we're going through. But really today, what's one way you can start asking in a recurring first way? What's your next fundraising campaign on your website, in your next email? What's one way? And who's one person, maybe in here right now? Somebody's been commenting in the chat and you're like, ooh, like that person asked a good question. That's totally my vibe. I have the same things. Maybe we have the same challenges. Who's one person that you can connect with? Maybe it's me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Maybe it's Dave. Connect with Dave on LinkedIn. And we can chat all about monthly giving, but it's all about collaboration because together we can change the future of philanthropy. So through the process, and thank you, Charity Engine, for the book, you are invited to join the mastermind. This is what it's all about. 15 organizations were so kind to let me interview them and share the behind the scenes of what's worked in their organizations. You're going to get, if you fill out the form that Charity Engine provided, 15 case studies of nonprofits literally opening the doors to what's worked for them in their organization. So I count this as an ever-growing, evolving movement of monthly giving mastermind members. And I really hope that after today, if it was an afterthought, it's no longer, so that we can really change how your organization is fundraising and making it scalable and sustainable and predictable revenue. So with that, thank you so much for having me. And Dave, I know I've been looking at the chat. There's a ton of questions.
Ton of questions.
I would love to dive in. I haven't taken a peek at all of them yet, but I know you might have. Are there a few that stand out to you that you want to jump to?
Well, I mean, the first one is, when is your next summit? And I looked on my phone as you were going through this. I didn't want to miss anything you were saying because there was so much here. Actually, like for me, listening to you, I want more. I want to learn more here. So
It's
submit.
all in here.
Yeah, we're giving
There's
away
so much.
100 books. I mean, outside of the giveaway, go get her book and support Dana, because as you can see from this presentation, you're kind of scratching the surface in a bit. And I know there's a ton more there. So get the book, but we are going to give away 100. So there's a link in the beginning of the chat. If maybe we could drop it in again, that'd be awesome to get the giveaway. But I love things like, naming the product is fascinating. It's just so simple, and just shifting your mindset away from one-time asking to more recurring. I think it's huge. So thank you so much. This is fantastic. But when's your next summit for those outside of maybe the Slack group or getting into the raffle for the book?
So it's going to be in February of 2026. I am not doing them 6 months back to back again. It'll be an annual thing. I might have something I'm playing with in the fall that might be in person in Atlanta. But the next virtual summit will be in February of 2026.
Cool. So,
but all of the videos are on YouTube. So anybody, it's free. It's not gate kept. Anybody can go onto YouTube on my page and watch any of the sessions from this year.
Okay, I know you can look through these questions too, Dana. You're savvy. One that I thought was interesting is, how would you recommend getting monthly donors involved beyond recurring giving, especially if the work of the organization is the work the organization is undertaking is sensitive and helping vulnerable groups?
So one thing that I recommend is, for your existing monthly donors, is to ask them to share why they give monthly to your organization into their channels. So whether that's on LinkedIn or Instagram, and you essentially, as the organization, provide maybe a simple prompt. This is something you can create in ChatGPT, where you essentially give them like a fill in the blank to fill out, like a Mad Lib. And then they can post that, and it's them raising awareness on your behalf. That's a simple one. That's something common that I recommend around Giving Tuesday, or times where they're already giving, but how can you curate this, use this group really to grow the movement, and they'll be excited about that. Another example was, if you have some that you're closer to that are in the group, the founder asked me if I would do a party. We were on like a brainstorming call, and I was like, you should have your monthly donors do events. And she's like, well, since you came up with the idea, would you do one? And I was like, yeah, that actually sounds super fun. And it was a blast, and everyone loved it and was super engaged in asking questions. So think about, for your organization, what is relatable to what it is the mission is, and if there's a way to work that in. But there's so many different things you can ask your recurring supporters to do.
Here's another question I think that I know the answer to, but it'll be interesting. How long do you recommend recurring gifts to run?
Forever.
Yeah, that's what
For as long as they want them to. I think the average that I've heard is around 8 years for recurring donors. But then what can happen is if you start to see those gifts increase, then you can reach out. And then that's an opportunity where if you have like a mid-level giving opportunity, maybe that's where you invite them to join the next level of opportunity within your organization. So I think it's just doing some development in the back and some relationship building to figure out. I mean, otherwise, yeah, let them give as long as they want to.
yeah. How do you turn donors who pay membership dues annually into monthly donors? Have you dealt with that
Ooh,
before?
so I think it depends on the organization and what type of like membership that is. So if it's something if it's a museum or something where an annual membership makes more sense versus something that's monthly, it depends if those should be two different programs, or if there's like a benefit to doing monthly. That's kind of a case by case example, dependent upon what it is that you're providing in regards to the membership.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, Here's another question. I'm planning to launch a monthly giving community in 2026 with perks, events, etc. What am I missing out on by not starting right now?
Oh my goodness. Start right now. It doesn't have to be immaculate. Like, just get a page up, have a form that's monthly only, have a name, have a value prop, make it super simple, because you're missing out on the opportunity, I think, for more diversified funding. And
Hmm.
now more than ever, I think we need that. And recurring gives people the opportunity to give at sometimes lower amounts, but over time. Whereas if you were to say we really want, and this is another big thing. So with the LA fires, I'm going to give this as an example. My husband and I used to live in Los Angeles. The LA fires was obviously a big opportunity in philanthropy to help support what was going on there. And so we did. But my personal identity is really called to the organizations that I shared. So we gave once in that instance, and I haven't seen a follow up to become a recurring donor to those organizations. I think
Hmm.
that's a missed opportunity. So I think it's a miss, or you don't have, if somebody becomes a one time, how can you build that relationship to the next step? And that can be your next step. Um, there's so much opportunity and potential, I think, and it just creates these super fans. I also saw a question on the specific dollar amounts, even asking for monthly on the dollar a day method, and saying that their organization struggles with the impact. So my recommendation there is you literally just say, give 50 cents, a dollar a day towards helping X, towards providing X. Um, and that's as simple as you need to make it. That's not as much to elaborate there, but you could do 50 cents a day, a dollar a day, $2 a day. Giving or dailygiving.org is a great example of this if you want one to look at of how they do it. I think they even do it by like number of family members in a household, but that's one that you could look at. Um, I saw another one. We have a monthly giving page, but also, okay, yay, that's great, but also a recurring gift option on our standard online form. Yes, we thought it would be better for it to be in both places, but should it not be included on the form along with one-time gifts and pledges? No, 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 100% it should be in both places. You always want to have the opportunity to upgrade or give somebody the option instead of one time to give recurring. It should definitely be in your main form and have this separate page. And that is because if you do have a specific campaign, like in these tentpole moments, you want to have one page to drive people to so that there's no confusion when you are asking for that monthly gift. So in your email, let's just say, hey, we're really excited to have you join the circle. And $32 a month provides X. Join the circle today. when you click that button, there should be a form that has an amount that says $32 and what it equates to. So it's all telling a very cohesive story. And that's what that gives you the opportunity to do. But for anybody who's just coming to your page naturally on a homepage, yes, you should definitely have monthly in your main form.
One question here was by tying monthly donations to building a facility, and I think you gave an example of one of those. This person probably has something similar. What happens when the facility is built?
Oh, good question. So a facility takes maintenance, a facility takes staff, a facility takes cleaning, a facility like all of those news stories that she gets to tell. And I think what's cool about now, this isn't everybody. You don't have to have a monthly giving program that's centered around one thing, but it gives something as a common goal for a group of people to build to. Once that goal is met, there's something new that's going to happen, right? Now she's going to have a facility that needs the lights on and air conditioning and people and staff, and it sure doesn't stop. If anything, all that funds just helps to sustain the facility that they helped build together. And like, how cool is that of a story to be able to communicate with supporters? Super good question.
Another one is, what do you recommend for storytelling when the receivers of the service are vulnerable community members receiving emergency food? It's been a struggle finding ways to accurately tell stories with no pictures or videos.
So it's interesting. I actually did a video training with LinkedIn recently on this, on how to do video. So there's a lot of powerful things that you can do through text graphics. If that's something important for you, you can also think through as your organization, the use of stock. I know that can be much more common in supporting anti-human trafficking efforts is really big for me. So sometimes there's no faces usually shown, but looking down or behind, or if it's stock imagery that you have permission to use, or if you've received permission, always asking, of course, permission to utilize somebody's name and likeness for something. But you can do a lot of creative storytelling with words, and how you get creative in that with words that move. Motion graphics and Canva is really popular now. Having other people tell the story on your behalf. So this is actually I would put that for your organization directly into ChatGPT. I'd be like, this is my problem. What would you recommend for me? And give me 10 examples. And I bet you it would spit out a whole bunch of content ideas.
Another question
Great questions.
Yeah, there's a ton here. How easy is it for donors to turn off their monthly giving, and how does that impact the organization getting those funds?
So all of that depends on, and Charity Engine and Dave, you guys can speak more to this, but all of that depends on who your donation platform is, on how easy donor management is. So usually there's some sort of donor portal where they can go in the back end and they can update their credit card all on their own. They can pause, they can cancel, increase, decrease, whatever they need to do. So what you want to have happen is if somebody does cancel or pause, you ideally want to have some sort of trigger on your team side for when that happens. Because actually, Aria Friedner from Daily Giving spoke about this when I interviewed him in the book. And he's like, you know what? It's totally okay when people leave. We call them surfers, is what he says. He's like, we hope they had such a great experience while they were giving with us that they're going to ride that wave and they're going to come back another time. But maybe right now they had to stop. And so they actually have like an email that goes out to say, thank you for being a donor. We're here if you have any questions. It's not looked at as a negative thing. And I hope that you can more think about that, where we all know life happens. But if they joined for a reason at the beginning, and if they're given the opportunity to come back again, I bet you they would, if it's a good experience, especially when they're leaving or they're pausing. Like, think about how unique that is. You cancel something, and instead of the traditional, maybe like salesy approach or why'd you leave? It's, we loved having you with us. We hope you'll come back again. Thank you so much for your support. Like, what a switch that is.
Yeah.
And so I hope we embrace this approach of, no one's usually leaving because they don't want to give and do good anymore. Like, that's not the reason why. So how can we just empower them to come back?
I think that's a great way to wrap it up, Dana. That was a great answer. And thank you so much for coming here. Thank you to AFP and Dana, thank you for coming here and sharing all of your your knowledge. And I know there's so much more there. Guys, get the book. Don't be silly. And if you're
Yeah.
not selected
It's on
here,
audio too.
yeah, good. Or listen to it on audio. It's a great way. Get the book.
And let us know for Dave and I, we're going to be together at Icon, AFP Icon in just a
yes,
couple weeks.
yeah, I'll be speaking there, and I'm going to find you, Dana. We'll be there. We'll have a nice big booth. So come say hi to Charity Engine.
I will.
If you want to learn more about what we can do to help you with your recurring giving programs. So thank you, Dana, so much. Really appreciate you. And thanks everybody for coming today.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you both. And on behalf of AFP Global, I would like to thank you for your participation in today's webinar live stream. Please take a moment to complete our survey, which helps us program future events. Our next webinar, Proven Words That Work, What You Need to Say or Not Say to Get More Gifts, on May 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern. This concludes today's stream. Thank you and have a great day.